Hey guys, happy Halloween. I'm gonna do a kind of a basics video. I haven't done one of these in a little while, but I was just prompted. There was a couple new users recently who had been asking questions like how to, as far as RTS goes, and how you get involved in it. First of all, there's this conception out there, and I know it's out there. It's been out there for a long time that when you go to RTS, you got to know every rule there is, and you got to know. Well, we got 20. We do have 20. How would you say, procedures? Some of them don't apply to you. Some of them might. I'm not going to get into the procedures. You can look them up yourselves. You should be reading them. At least go through them once. And if it applies to you, great. If it doesn't, then you don't have to worry about it. So basically, when you join a server, like I'm on my own server right now, I will. I'm going to disconnect actually. Uh, yeah, I can do. I'm just making sure that the IP addresses are there. I don't care if you guys know that or whatever. So I'll bail out. Hopefully, now. So I bailed out. The password is you put in the password box. It stars up. So you select the server that you want. There's a Florida server. There's a Selkirk server. When you eventually when you go to these servers, like Depot and Run8 Europe as well, they'll start populating your list, and you can edit them to whatever you want. So I'm going to go on to the RTS server. I have the password already. When you exit out of it, the password will remember. So you want to join the server that you want. You have to know the password. Give you a hint, it's in the procedures for some people who've been asking. Um, so that didn't do it the way I wanted. Oh, there it is. See, now everything's popping up. When you join it will actually make sure that all the routes are found. It'll load up databases. It'll tell you you've joined. I had Control Tab closed just because of the chat and everything, and I might get some chats in this message. But for now, I'll close up the chat, and that's Control Tab if you don't want to hear anything. But you do want to hit Control Tab to make sure that you are communicating with. So Control Tab turns on the chat box. Control Tab turns it off. For the purpose of this video, I'm turning it off. You don't have to worry about that, but if you're wondering, as soon as you hit Tab, it comes back on. Okay? So if people aren't talking to you or chatting with you, you think you're online and there's a lot of people, hit the Tab button. So anyways, I'm going to Control Tab for now. So anytime you hit Tab, it comes back on. That's the main chat window. That's the main way we communicate at RTS. We do have a TeamSpeak server. I think it's still up. Nobody ever uses it. Most of our users could care less. We don't need TeamSpeak to enjoy having realistic operations and sessions. It's some places a party line. Most people here prefer not to use it. That's just the way we are. But it's available if you want to bring your own TeamSpeak, you want to have your own other Skype or whatever else you want to. I could care less, as long as other people know what's going on, and that's basically the way to communicate as far as letting people know go on. It's very simple communication, anyways, in CTC signals and etc. So we're here in the yard, and you can see the various designations here. If you want to get those, you get Control 8. Control 8 cycles through. Reds are loads, greens are empties. You don't really need to have to worry about that unless you're switching trains. Majority of trains on RTS do not switch unless there's work involved. So now you got a few options here. F4 can minimize your window there so that you can go into other programs. There's two things that you want to look at. If you want to look at where trains actually physically are in relation to others, you can go into External Dispatcher. So I have one user right now in Barstow who's starting up. He's running towards Chicago. A lot of people questioning as far as, well, where do they find which trains are available to run. External Dispatcher is something you can use on RTS. It's always available. You can download from the Run8 Depot. I believe has the download currently. But you can go through. We had like 25 trains on the other day, and now uh, we've lost quite a few actually because we've turned down our cycle a little bit. We're running it a little bit slower. So, but anyways, those are the trains that are available right now, and then there's others. You want to see what trains are available? You go to this website. This is the registry. It's available on our Wikia site. And what you're doing here is sort of you can see what's transpired for today. So it hasn't been too busy Halloween day, a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon. Um, it'll tell you, this is kind of a sheet just to show what kind of activity like during the week, 29th. The 29th was a busy day. It's really, this tab isn't really nothing other than to see what's been happening recently. Daily operating bulletins, if there is any, we're not using them really. These are your yards. We have yards in between mains. Yards are more for the switchers and for people tagging, but it goes from north to south. So the first one you want to see is coming out of Bakersfield. Now, that train I just told you about, Kustoshi 6, he put an entry in there that he's departing North Departure Yard. So he's all set up. But other trains that are available, crew change, and then there's these other trains that you can download because once they're released, you get a download link. And this also tells you when the dates and times when other trains are supposed to become available. We're running a cycle. Don't get confused too much by the term cycle. I'll show you that a little bit in a bit. Right now we're running a 45-day cycle. We've had run a 35-day cycle in the past. We decided um, just to give everybody a chance to run as many trains as possible, we've put it to 45-day cycle, which means it takes 45 days to go through a full schedule. Uh, in the how would you say, the cycle of what a 24-hour period is. So I don't want to confuse you too much more about that, but these are the basic locations. Once again, you go Bakersfield Yard. There's a map of all the tracks where cars are. This is edited by the admins. You don't have to worry about too much about that unless you're actually running the yards. Um, the other thing I should show you about is you can see there's a work column there. If your train does have work, like Edison, which is currently in standby mode, we're still working on getting some cars set up for this cycle, so it's actually delayed quite a bit. But trains like the HVAB bar works at BNSF Bakersfield on its way through. When you go to Bakersfield, Maine, there's a difference. Bake and BK, one is BNSF Bakersfield, which is 3-letter designations. The UP Bakersfield is 2-letter designations. So you see these crew changes are here. If everything's going, you got Rowan and Canyon. Some of those locations are, one of that's the Mojave sub, the other is the Cajon sub. So when you go through, you'll see those trains. That's a little too big here. You'll see, what did I say, Rowan? I think it is there. There's your train at Rowan. And the other one was on the Cajon sub, which is this one right there. There he goes, MRVWC. Okay, so it's out there. And I'm just trying to think, here it is, right there. MRVWC came in October 31st, which is earlier today, and Crew Chase Canyon. So, looking some more, Mojave Yard, again, some of the locals that run out, we're in the midst of changing a little bit of that. All the stuff in the switchers that run out of Barstow and some maps as to what the tracks are. This is for, again, if you're running the industries or if you're running the various ones. We've got the Barstow matrix if you're running the hump, what's been humped, what's in the arrival yard still to come. We wait for, you can't hump anything until it's actually released. So right now nothing's released at this time to hump. It comes around, 45-day cycle basically means every few days or so you'll get one train that becomes humped or available. The Cadiz local's released. Now there's a download link for there, but that isn't to the actual train is actually an old Yard 8 right now. But there's a download link to download the interchange. So once again, if you're actually working the local, then you're going to have to download this link to spawn it. if you're actually working the local. And there's guides on the wiki on how to run certain locals. West Colton has their hump. San Bernardino has all their tracks. Cajon sub is another where mainline trains are shown, what's been deleted, where the crew changes are, and it always is from region of where it starts. So you're looking at the various. You won't get these comments. I don't think. Only think admins get those comments with the numbers on them. You probably won't get those. You just have to go through to the main stuff. A train that released that you can download, or you can run the San Bernardino WSP who's sitting up at Martinez. Um, you've got and you'll see different color codes. Like today's October 31st, so it turns green. Um, some of these trains were already released prior to that. That's just because we changed the cycle count. Nothing to worry about there. Um, Another crew change up at Dyke for that train. This is coming out of Daggett. And then finally the Needles sub is the last one, and that's all the westbounds coming out of Needles and where they are and what's coming up next. So, this was released earlier tonight, and where that's coming from, if there's any crew changes, if it's already through the system, etc. This is the cycle I wanted to show you about and what represents. Current date and time. I'm first recorded this. It says 10:14. I'm going to do a refresh here. Sometimes you have to refresh this just to see what's happening. But there, 10 current. That ain't right. It's on 10:08. Anyways, there we go. It just updated itself. So even though you refreshed, it didn't send the new data, but there's the data right there. So if you've been in the file for a while, you might want to refresh. It will refresh itself when new information comes. It's not so much because this changes all the time. When I mean new information is new registry entries. So for our session actually started, or our cycle started on October 4th at 11:59, and it goes to November 18th to 11:59. So current cycle number is 31. That's just a number. I don't even know if that number is correct. It doesn't matter. We're using cycle numbers to try to identify which cycle we're in. So we're calling it 31 for now. I started doing this last cycle. It's cycle 30. This is something we can edit. It has been 35. We decided to move it up to 45 because what happened was we were getting too many trains on the main lines, and all the sidings were getting full. So we decided to up it a little bit. I think 45 might be a little too much because we're going through the trains pretty quickly now the past few days. But this here, 222.14, well, it's actually 10:40 at night in the east, but it's in the cycle, in the 24-hour period, we're actually like 2:22 in the afternoon. So that's what that means. When you go further on, you've got various trains that really don't mean a hell of a lot to anybody, and I keep them on the right-hand side. They're more for admin. These are what the waybills. This is the RTS generated what the waybills look like for each session. They're imported into this file every cycle. I'm just looking to see what time we got here. We only got a few minutes, but say for example, you're looking at this train hasn't departed yet. I think he's got one signal or whatever. But say you want to oppose a train, so you got Kansas City Bar. Well, that came from Needles, right? So what you want to do is you look at the Needle sub, okay? And this is how easy it is to start a train. So Kansas City Bar, there's a difference between 8 and 9, so be careful. Kansas City Bar, so say you want to run that train. So what you do is you go form, go to live form, enter your name. Yours will, if you've done it enough, yours will actually make sure it's 8 and 9, between 8 and 9, so it is 8. And you want to click departing. Where does it say we're at? West Amboy. So you were departing off the Needle sub. It gives you what route you're on, Needle sub. And we want to go West Amboy, and I think you're in the siding. Yeah, we're in the siding here. So siding and submit. Now as you submit this, see that little taskbar comes up? Watch that. boom, it hits departing.